Hanna Linderstål, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So this whole thing started with a colleague of mine in Sweden. He sent me a message and said, you need to talk with her. And I said, yeah, send me some information. And 20 minutes later, I'm deep in your YouTube videos learning. And I was like changing my browser settings. And I've completely revamped the way I work now, thanks to you. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lots of great tips in there. And then I also started getting into, you have, videos about information influence operations and espionage. And I even watched I think I'm pretty much all the way through the Netflix Espionage series, which I saw as inspiration to this chat. So you gave me a reason to watch Netflix. Also good.
Good.
So for those of the listeners that have not, for lack of a better word, stalked you before this, how about we start with the introduction to yourself and what you work with?
Well, if we should start from the beginning, I was, like most children, a really curious child, but I was really into technology. So I didn't grow up, actually. I'm still really curious about technology. And I started my journey in the 90s. And I thought I was going to be a military. So I joined the military in the beginning in the army, in the signal troops. But after a year, I was to be transferred to the Air Force. That was an experience for me because I realized I didn't like people telling me what to do. So I left the military for a career in the civilian world and started. This was in the 90s, so internet was quite a hype. Nothing was really online for real. More than governmental stuff. So I started at a Swedish computer company called VM Data. It was quite a big company during those days, and we were building everything from bank solutions online, the first ones, and logistics systems for train traffic in Europe, financial data transfers and stuff like that. It was really fun days. And I don't think so much about it because you're younger than me, but around 2000 was quite an interesting year because everybody thought the world would stop. And during this time, I started to write my first risk and threat reports about cyber attacks and disinformation. And nobody was talking about disinformation. So when I started to write about disinformation, people were actually laughing. The first tool I wrote about was Lunarstorm. It was a Swedish platform, a social media platform that was launched in 2000. And my interest for monitoring and open source intelligence in social media channels started in those days. And since then we have MySpace in 2003, Facebook 2004, LinkedIn emerged soon after that, and then Twitter in 2006. And you get all these photo sharing sites, PhotoBucket, Flickr, and stuff like that. And you get the platforms 4chan, 8chan, that's now 8kun, for looking into information and disinformation. So for me, cybersecurity and open source intelligence, it's quite close because when we're talking about disinformation, we many times see that the threat comes from cyber attacks from the beginning, leaked data or stuff like that. I've been working with this for almost 20 years. That's really scary long time. It feels like 5, but I think it's been 20 years. So in 2015, I wrote a report about the election in the US for 2016, and I said I think Donald Trump's going to win the election. And I realized that I wanted to monitor this full time. So I called some of my friends and said, shouldn't we start a security business together? Something that have never existed before, that monitors disinformation and threats online. Awesome. And I wanted to find researchers, intelligence people, friends and colleagues I've known for a long time that are really, really good at what they're doing. Former hacktivists, how do they work? How do they think? And former hackers, never forget them because I usually call hackers really curious programmers that works in the gray. Yeah, so works in the gray area. So we started the company and we were ready in 2017, and since then we've been doing research for several governments and organizations all around the world. So it's really fun.
And today that's still the same company that you're CEO today for?
Yeah, Earhart Business Protection Agency.
Cool, awesome.
Well, we can help you just selling. So it's quite a business, and then you could see a new type of hacker out there, and that was criminal gangs and the criminal organizations that couldn't get any money from robbing banks because the banks don't have any money. The banks are actually using money online. So what did they do? Yeah, well, they hire hackers, of course, and then they started doing crimes. And then they see, wow, cyber proxies down there, they're actually selling their services to other partners, such as governments and stuff like that. And maybe we should do that as well. And suddenly you see a market. So if you look at hacking for like 20 years ago and today, you can see that today there's more actors out there.
That's super scary. The concept of cyber mercenaries. I mean, I was going to ask you about, like, you know, private investigators. I don't even know where I'd find one, but I would assume they use some of the stuff you do. You know, use open source intelligence to find out information they can. And then you have, on the other hand, private investigators, which probably aren't, you know, meant to do evil. They're just money, I guess. But then the cyber mercenaries, is that real? That's actually a thing out there these days. That's actually probably growing, I'm assuming, then?
Yeah, it is. And that's because there's so much money in it. Everybody, data, we have so much information, and the information value is so big. It's more value in information today than in oil, for example. So everything is, when we talk about conflicts, it's about money somewhere, and everybody wants to gather it. So I think we're going to see a development further on in this. But cyber mercenaries is quite common. It's not they popping up everywhere, but actually something that's growing and getting more established.
Oh, wow. Well, we'll have to. I'm gonna have to look into that one. I hope that there's some series about that I can look into. But last question for you.
Yeah.
Not to discuss your customers or anything you're working with, but what you're allowed to share. What are you working with? What's on your mind these days? What's your next 6 months to a year look like?
This 2021 started quite abrupt with a really big research online in different channels. For example, Parler, and then you can probably guess what I was researching. Why is everybody's gathering here, and why are they suddenly doing hostile things such as storming a building? So it's a lot about monitoring in social media. Actually, me and some of my colleagues are writing a book for a journalist about disinformation, on how to prevent being controlled by a fake astroturf movement that actually don't exist, that get you to do things. It's going to be a lot about monitoring that kind of stuff, and a lot about education, because we need to work with education of organizations management, because they are actually still storing data without really knowing where the data is. They are still having systems that they really don't know who owns the system. So it's a lot about education as well. But a lot of research online is.
What is your opinion about what's going on Reddit in the investment community?
Well,
that could be disinformation, or, you know, I don't know.
I kind of love conspiracy theories. It's really, really interesting.
We're two there.
Yeah. Have you ever joined a flat Earth movement? It's so inspiring. It's really, really interesting. Well, I believe we actually need to be everywhere to just listen to. Okay, where is this going? Where is the conspiracy theories going? But what I think is most important and most interesting as a researcher is when you look at these groups that are discussing these different theories, who are they? Are they just ordinary people that are really worried? Then it's okay. You are allowed to think almost anything, as long as not criminal things, but anything else. I'm allowed to think someone's stupid or something is fake or something like that. But if someone in this group actually feeding this discussion with fake information, with the purpose to move the discussion in a special direction, then it's scary. Because then I want to know who's you, and who are you, and who's paying you, or who do you represent actually. So in this group on Reddit, we can see actors that are not there just to discuss. They are actually there to feed the discussion in a direction that's for their own purpose. And that is disinformation. That's a part of PSYOPs.
In that case, it could be not necessarily. They could be the investment banks themselves doing stuff like that too, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
So we're here today to talk about cyber espionage and lawful intercept, if we get around to that, because I don't want to use all day. I could literally sit here and ask you questions all day long, but I've tried to scope it down a little bit. But prior to this conversation, we talked a little bit about cyber espionage before COVID times. And yesterday I had a conversation with a journalist from NRK, the Norwegian NRK. And, one of the things we're talking about is that a lot of governments these days, they just buy data from commercially available sources and do what they want to do with it instead of using, maybe going along the lawful way of doing things. So how was cyber espionage before COVID, before the situation that we're in now? How would you, if you had to look back in time a little bit, how's that progressed?
Well, it's always a progress when we're talking about cyber espionage because the world is changing. But if you look at the leap we've done in 2020, from working in our offices and everybody in like 10 days, we did this digital jump that should take 10 years, and everybody's working from home, and it kind of works. But did security follow us all the way? No, it didn't. So the development, if we're looking at cyber espionage before the COVID crisis, it was probably more the target was businesses. We could see more attacks. We saw more attacks that were DDoS attacks before COVID. During the COVID time, well, DDoS attack didn't have the same effects. So they started to actually target the employees that are working from home. It's quite easy to use different type of Trojan bots, different type of phishing mails with Trojans in them that you send to people and stuff like that. So it's been a development more to the vulnerability in the human factor. The soft spot is us, the people. It's really easy to send someone a really interesting email. Spoofing an email isn't hard, Most people can find a spoofing service online if they don't know how to do it themselves. And you send an email to someone and they click on it and say, no, nothing happened, and I'm working from home, so I go and get a coffee and keep on working. And actually I've been installing like a Trojan in my computer, and I don't know about it, and it's collecting data. Or I use, my phone a lot when I work. Many people use their phone for conferencing calls and everything. And many of the bots we saw popping up during all the Trojan malwares popping up during 2020 was actually made for your phone and collecting data such as your text traffic. And that's really interesting because some of us are really good at using two-factor login, and you got a text to your phone with a code. But if you have a Trojan in your phone that monitor your text, that's not really safe, is it? And
those text messages, those don't go through iMessage. That's going through your Telenor or Telia, right? Just a normal.
So that's a bit scary. We don't know how much data that's out there that we already lost. That's why I say it's really, really important to monitor darknet, because then you can see, oh my God, we lost something, and it's out there.
Interesting. Yeah, I know that from the mnemonic side, we do security monitoring for companies, and once that happened, there was a lot of companies worried about how are we supposed to monitor what's going on at home. So that was a big problem not a problem, but it was a big worry for a lot of organizations on how they're going to do that.
Yeah, and I do believe if the development is like this, and we're going to see more attacks against the human factor in the organization to get over information and data, and I think we're going to see more like the SolarWinds supply chain attacks. That the best espionage is the one you don't know about. And SolarWinds is a really good example because that attack actually was ongoing for 8 months before someone was realizing that, oh my God, something is wrong. And I think it was FireEye that actually noticed it from the beginning, because one employee had 2 factors login and got a text that said you need to log in, and said, but I'm not logging in. Something is wrong.
Is that actually the story behind it? That's what happened?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was listening to a webinar about it. I thought it was really interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see more like that, and I think it's really much going on that we don't know about.
Speaking on that, what we don't know about, and you mentioned dark web
Yeah.
and OSINT. Tell us a little bit about that world. What have you been doing around there? I'm so curious about like what's going on in there. It's so far away from normal people.
Well,
these little forums and stuff. Yeah.
well, you know, I'm like this internet dinosaur. So from the beginning, we actually didn't see a difference between front web, deep web, and darknet. It was like internet, online, connected computers. So for me, it's as important to monitor what's happening on darknet as it is on monitor what's happening on the front web as the deep web. You know, the deep web everywhere we log in, social media channels, for example. So I think it's very important to monitor what is said about us. Is there any data we need to know about? Have you had a data breach that we don't know about? I mean, you got databases that are selling financial data, logins, and stuff like that, of course. But it's also sites that's selling data you don't know that's out there. For example, you have a supplier that stores data for you, and the data is on the run, and you don't know about it. It's really good to see, okay, I need to know about this. Because you can't always be 100% protected. It's always going to leak somewhere.
And I know there are, you know, there's a few companies I think of when it comes to like darknet monitoring, but what are they, you know, I've never talked to them. Like, do they have people on the inside that are sort of secret agents in these little dark webs that are trying to gain information, or how do you get into those environments, you know?
Well, there's several different companies that monitor darknet, and some of them use crawlers to crawl in data, but then you only get the surface. Then you have the ones that dig really deep, such as Dark Owl, for example, that actually join and is active on darknet and can get very, very much data. And many authorities are using those suppliers, and they're really, really good on getting the latest information and mapping how big is this problem. For example, how many websites are selling guns in Europe? And if you really look into it, it's really interesting to follow the traffic. Because everybody on darknet doesn't work with cyber, so they think they are invincible and really, really secret, but they're not.
The OPSEC isn't right there, yeah.
No, and the worst case, they go in social media and really brag about what they're doing on darknet, and that's fun. So that's spying on the spy or spying on the criminal. That's quite a fun business if you're bored at work.
Yeah, right. And how does that relate to open the word OSINT? Untangle that one for us.
Open source intelligence is every information you can gather that's online or in newspapers, or you can read anywhere. So
that's not dark web stuff.
No, OSINT is everything that's open. Then you have SOCMINT, social media intelligence. That's in the deep web because everybody has logged in. So it's on the deep side, and that's a little bit more tricky because most social media have groups and you have to join the groups. You can't monitor groups. Well, before Cambridge Analytica scandal and the election in the US, you could monitor groups, but you can't do it today because Facebook and sites like that have closed.
They learned something, yeah.
Yeah, they learned something, and as I said, it wasn't really funny for the researcher because, oh my God, we really need to be joining all these groups. And should you join it with your own name, or should you have a different profile for the topic that you're monitoring? Or, yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. So that's social media intelligence. And then you have human intelligence. I could start talking with you and asking questions, and suddenly you are actually giving me information without knowing it. And social engineering is the same thing. I ask you something and you tell me. Sometimes when you do a penetration test, you can actually use social engineering and just call the clients and say, "Hi, this is Jenny from IT. I did see here that you haven't updated your password that we emailed about last week. Can we take care of it right now? Oh, I'm sorry. Are you busy? Well, I can help you." And suddenly you got a password, and then you can start moving from there. That's type of a human intelligence because you give me information. And then you can work on premises, of course, and actually tailgate someone inside to get more information. So the intelligence world is really, really wide. But I usually say that you don't have to meet people today. You have your computer, so you have everything there. And if I need to monitor you, I start looking at who is Robby. Does he have a Facebook account? Does he have a LinkedIn profile? Is it on Twitter? Are you on any other channel? what is people writing about you? What are you bragging about? How's your network working? And then I get a quite good picture what information I need to know about you to get you to tell me information about your work.
And I guess for somebody like me, that'd be way too easy. I've tried to lock it down. I've tried to limit, like, nobody can see my connection to LinkedIn. Nobody can see my friends on Facebook. You know, these websites, they put your address and your phone number on front page of Google. It's really annoying. It's really hard to lock yourself down. So it's kind of like you have to make a choice whether you want to be online and use those services or not, I guess. Is that there's no way you can hide yourself if you want to have those things?
No, you can't hide yourself, especially when you live as I do in Sweden, where everything is online.
Exactly.
All information about me is online, but I can choose what information I share about, for example, my clients or what I'm doing at work. And that's the next step. How much data am I leaking through my channels? As I said in this presentation that you logged on, that digital footprints, for example, how much data do I share? Do I have my positioning on my phone active when I'm going to a meeting on the military headquarters? That's not super smart, is it?
Oof. So is there anything we can do? And I'm guessing like the adversaries out there, they're pros at this, correct? They've systemized this. They've got it all down, and there's not much we can do to stop them. Or?
Well, espionage has been around forever, and everything is about how much information can I get about you without you knowing anything. So that's the basics. So the tools are just getting more sophisticated, and we are more inviting you into our home without thinking about it. Maybe I put up a Google Home device, and then I'm working from home, and I got this little device beside me that's like keep on listening to me, and someone says, oh, maybe I should hack that one. If I hack that one, I can actually listen what Hanna is talking about in her office. Or I download an app, for example. I download TikTok on my work phone because I think it's a really cool app. It's a really cool app, but it's gathering quite a lot of data about me. Is that data that I want to share with a company in China?
Right. So what about the good guys? The concept of lawful intercept. So you know, I've been looking into this a bit, and so in Norway, I know we discussed it previously. I'm not exactly sure we are in Norway. They were supposed to, from the 1st of January, it was supposed to be allowed for the government to collect teledata and use that for national security purposes. And then the EU came out and said that's not allowed. So I'm not really sure what happened there. But lawful intercept. What are your thoughts just in general around lawful intercept?
Well, according to EU, you're not allowed to gather bulk data precaution without you knowing about it. So that's not allowed. But if we talk about monitoring and doing threat analysis with, for example, artificial intelligence, that's a really good way of doing it. But we're not allowed by EU laws to do that. And metadata is like integrity threat for me as a person, as direct personal data, because I can build a quite good picture about a person with the metadata. So it's quite complex, but at the same time, if you look at all the data that we're already sharing today through our apps on our phones and through the systems we put up in our homes, I mean we got all this IoT is that tells us a lot about who we are as a person, and all the cloud services that we choose to use. And just look at everybody's working from home. Do you have any colleague or friend that's using another channel than the one provided from the employer to share data? Of course. Suddenly get a information message of a messenger, and I say, oh my God, what are you doing? Well, I didn't have time to start the VPN and the email, so I just send it by messengers. I don't do that. So we already put a lot of data out there, but I think it's good that we have these laws because we have so much data about everybody in the world. Not only this data, we got biometric data. And if we visit a country that gathers biometric data, we realize that this is really scary. They got a lot of information about us. So I think it's good that we have laws about gathering data in bulk in preventive purposes. But as a researcher, that would be really good to have.
Yeah, right. And then you mentioned the word metadata, and I had a question about that. So, if somebody sends me a message on, I have Telin, right? So if somebody sends me a message on there, just to my number, then that comes in my iPhone. That comes in as a green message, right? I'm assuming that somebody knows, government or other people know that who sent that to me, who sent it, when it came to me, what time and stuff, but they don't necessarily know what I said. Is that true? Is that the same for iMessage? Is that the same for Signal, for Facebook, for Snapchat, for Instagram? Is that how it works?
Yeah. Well, there are different layers here. I can't really answer the question for every platform or system when you send information. But when you send a text with your telephone, as the ordinary cell phone text message, that's not secure way of sending information at all. But the message is logged somewhere. Maybe not the information. It depends on which country you live in. But the text itself, that you send the text to this number, that is logged. When you're using a social media platform, everything is logged. It doesn't matter what platform or what country the platform's in. Everything is logged. And well, it feels secure to use a platform, for example, with a encrypted communication, and that's easier. But then you have other countries in the world that have laws to gather information from encrypted channels. For example, US got these laws that said I need to take this information. There are other countries in the world that are allowed to get information if they need it. But they need to say, we believe that there is a threat. We believe there is a threat because of... They can't just gather the data in bulk in preventive purposes. Because if they could do that, they could actually predict people's movement or people's decisions.
Right? Oof. So you said, I know I'm not going to try to ask you to go into all these specific platforms, but is there anything that's actually private then? Is there any channels like they say that Signal, right? They just use that example. I saw something LinkedIn the other day, like top open source sort of free non-for-profit sort of organizations that are giving you something. But then I immediately, I'm not sure if you heard of that Swiss company that had sold the encryption software that was owned by the CIA, right? I get kind of worried sometimes, like, okay, Signal, everybody says use Signal, but who owns that, or is like have the bad guys sort of infiltrated that? Do you have any thoughts around that sort of stuff?
Well, Signal is a good example, but Signal has this encryption code that you store on your device when you install it. The biggest risk with that is if I can get my hands on your device, I know where on the device it's stored. So then I can borrow your key. And that's one way, but you never know if someone is going to infiltrate an organization. That's why I think it's really important for businesses to really have a look out for our suppliers of services. Who's owning this organization? Who's handling the data? Who are their suppliers and their suppliers? Because sometimes there's several layers, and suddenly you see an organization that you don't want to share data with somewhere. So nothing is really super secure, of course, if you don't have end-to-end encryption really well through a system that you trust. So I'm really sad to say that. So a physical meeting, and it's quite a hard one during a pandemic. So it's difficult. Right. Yeah. So I can't say everything. Nothing is really safe or unsafe. But Signal is a quite good platform. I like it. I like open source because you can go and look at it and see, okay, how's this working actually. I think that's good base, but everything that's free is scary online.
Yeah, right. And that same thing with like Signal and stuff, right? It's free, so like what they say, if it's free, then you're the product sort of thought process. And also, if it's open source, that means everybody can look at it. It's all out there.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about those things. I know that when I start downloading apps now, I always look at the publisher and do a quick check on the publisher. I have no idea what I'm looking for, but I just need to make sure give me the feeling that they're legit, But
it's a really good start that you do that. What is it I'm downloading here? I mean, when I downloaded TikTok for the first time, I was really curious because I loved Musical.ly. It was a really fun app and we were doing some crime investigation on the Musical.ly for grooming attempts and stuff like that. So I started to really like the platform. That's the difficulties when you work with research. You have to learn everything. When I downloaded TikTok, I had this special new phone, a TikTok phone I call it, and then I connected it to my development computer, and I downloaded the app, and we're looking to the API. What is TikTok asking me for? The first thing, okay, you wanted to know my phone unique identification number. Why? That's the number on the inside of the battery in the phone. I have never seen it myself. Why do they need that? Okay, and they ask for access to my phone and camera. Of course, it's a video app, so that's logical. Is it allowed to use it all the time? No, absolutely not. Why should it do that? It wanted to have my latest information stored on my phone, a contact list, other apps installed, information from other apps, and it started to Google my name and looking on the internet. Who is this that installing our really cool app? And suddenly I realized this is like the best espionage tool of all times. It's so... when Donald Trump said he was going to buy TikTok, I said, is he buying a weapon system or a social media platform? I'm not sure. Because it's a really good way to get people to install something that is fun, and you get a lot of information. I don't say that you use it for that, but it's quite possible to do that. And... if you look at modern espionage, I think that's the way they're going to do it. They're going to do it through the platforms that we love. Not the secret hacker attack with a youngster in hoodie that drinking Coca-Cola and programming all night and trying to attack your system. I think it's going to be something that you find online that you really love and say, oh my God, this is a cool platform. This platform is actually helping me in my work day, and it's for free. I'm going to download it. I found a platform just a couple of days ago that I thought was really cool. It was for free. I could do some planning for my work when I'm working from home. I thought, this is good. I got it advertised on Facebook, of course. So I clicked on it, and I was looking through it and said, wow, this is a smart system. It's artificial intelligence based, and it's really could help me structure my workday. And when you look into the system, it asked me in the beginning, said, yes, to structure your day, we need to have access to email. Can you please give us your login for your email account and your calendar and your messenger? And we also want your Facebook account so we can see the interaction you have with your potential clients through other channels and your LinkedIn. And suddenly I see, oh my God, they got a lot of data if they do all this. And it's still for free.
Yeah, right. Skeptical.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we had a chat with that journalist yesterday, and every app does that. What he did is he installed 160 of them and just tracked his data. But Grindr just got 10 million euros or something like that in fine. And I bet that's just gonna keep going. They're gonna get a lot of fines, all those companies, for doing that. Hopefully.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I hope that.
I don't understand why we haven't thought about this. For example, a couple of years ago, I did an example. I was going to show the military about data information that we just spread around us without knowing it. So I was looking about the military base in Africa in Mogadishu. It's an international military base there, and a lot of Swedish military there, and I think you guys are there as well. And I was looking at, militaries. What do? Yeah, they exercise a lot. So I was looking at exercise apps. Okay, everybody wants everybody wants to show I'm really good at running 5K. This is my best time, and of course they're using an app. And the app is using some type of signal to monitor how long do I run and where do I run, and can I compare this with my friends. And from this I can show you the roads on this base, the roads back and forth this base, because the app is still going on their phone in their pocket when they're going into surveillance work or whatever they do, and how fast they're moving, and who are their friends that use the same exercise area. And then the tools are pretty scary. And most of my friends are using some type of a tool that monitoring your physical health. If it is a watch, it's an app or something like that. So I think we need to be more. We need to be more on top of talking about. Okay, I like this new technical device. It's really cool, but how much data do I give you about myself without thinking about it? And do I really need to post it online?
Yeah, right. But I guess the only solution for a lot of those things is just get that old Nokia out, right? That does not have internet.
Yeah.
Start thinking about that. Maybe we should get one of those.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's quite cool with all the platforms we have, and the digital identity we have is really cool development. And I think many people, such as myself, I was a really shy child. I didn't like to talk to people, but the internet for me was like the new world I stepped into. I really loved it, and I still do. And I think the technology development is really cool. And isn't it better if you're gonna have cyber war instead of physical war somewhere? Okay,
Yeah.
we don't want them to attack anything that's critical, such as hospitals and stuff like that. But if they're just stealing data digital, it's not as harmful as actually hunting down people with guns and stuff like that. So I think the cyber world is quite cool, but we need to be more alert.
For sure. So you haven't given up faith on the internet?
No, absolutely not. I think it's quite fun. I mean, the most fun part of our job is hack the hacker, or actually looking into, if you're looking at crimes online, it's quite funny because most criminals actually brag online about what they're doing. So it's quite easy. Everybody wants to be get someone to say, wow, really cool, how did you do that? And say, yeah, we did it like this. It's the same in the hacker community as well. You have darknet sites with only hackers that are actually discussing the latest hacks they've done.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, like us as, I'll put you in the same team as mnemonic for a little bit here. Like the defenders, they're good at talking together, I guess. They're getting better at it. But the bad guys are a lot better at talking together and sharing stuff.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. Do you have any insight into that little environment? Like how they do that and how they get away with it? Like,
well, actually, they share a lot of information in form of hostile code, for example, different type of Trojans, different type of botnets and stuff like that, and they actually share it with each other. So today I can find people online that are actually using hacking methods, but they don't know anything about computers. They actually just borrow stuff online. And so that has been a development as well. I do believe that it would be really good for the business to listen into the dark side of the internet more, because there are a lot of information there that you can learn from. You can get a feeling about what is going to happen.
And those groups of people, I don't want to generalize, but are they coming from like any specific countries, or are they actually all over the world just hiding very well?
Well, we have different clusters. We have state hackers that are actually working for governments in the world, and they are really well organized and have a target and so on. And then we have these cyber proxies. Have you heard about it? It's like cyber mercenaries that are actually selling their services online. And the first time I really found a cyber mercenary group was in 2014, 2015 in Crimea and the big political stuff I only looked at the cyber part of it, but that's quite interesting. That was the first time I saw cyber proxies that actually was selling their services.
Interesting. Well, Hanna, thank you so much for your time. I am going to review this podcast and come up with a million more questions for you, and you will hear from me soon.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for everything you're doing for the internet.
Thank you. Have a nice day.